You remember that dirty elbow Kayla McBride landed on Lexie Hull the last time these two teams met? Well, tonight Lexie got her shot at revenge, and trust me, she didn't waste it. What went down between Hull and McBride had the entire arena buzzing, and it ended with the Fever and Caitlyn Clark walking away with the win.
We're going to look at it. So foul there on Indiana, on Hull there, but then that is a technical.
That is a technical. Dead ball, contact technical.
It's a little surprising to see so many of these happen in one game because...
Oh, and I don't like the way Lexie Hull...
Remember this play from the last time the Indiana Fever and Minnesota Lynx faced off? Did Lexie Hull finally deliver the ultimate revenge on Kayla McBride this time around? In their last meeting, McBride's elbow smashed Hull right in the face, and somehow the referees whistled Hull instead. But in Indiana's huge victory against Minnesota, Hull answered back in a way that left everyone stunned. This wasn't just highlight reel stuff, it was redemption and a statement of the Fever's grit. Want to know how this single moment reflects Indiana's late season surge and playoff push? Drop some love for Lexie in the comments below. Let's go.
Final score, Fever 83, Lynx 72. Indiana ends the regular season with an exclamation point. Fever have won 3 in a row as they enter the playoff.
How does a team manage to survive when nearly half the rotation is out? The Fever were forced to figure that out the hard way. Night after night, names landed on the injury report. Caitlyn Clark sidelined with a groin issue. Sophie Cunningham out with an MCL tear, Sydney Colson gone after an ACL injury, Chloe Bibby's knee gave out, Ari McDonald fractured her foot. That list alone could form a solid starting 5. Yet suddenly all of them were sitting in street clothes. When you add those losses together, you're staring at one of the thinnest roster in the league. No amount of preseason prep could have braced Indiana for that kind of collapse.
I know a lot of people will talk about Nafisa not playing, but I think they're really good without her. You know, they're just a really great basketball team. So I think it was a big win for us because they set the bar high standard-wise. We know what to expect when it comes to Minnesota Lynx, and so I think going into the playoffs, it was big for us because being able to know guarding Courtney Williams, knowing that her thing is a pull-up, knowing that now instead of not knowing that, it's big for us because we give ourselves a chance, and if they are the standard, we get to see where we are.
Then came the announcement: Caitlyn Clark's season was officially done. What started as a nagging groin injury was now permanent on the injury sheet. This was supposed to be her rookie run that pushed Indiana into national relevance. Instead, it ended with a press release, not a playoff debut. That kind of news can crush a team's spirit, especially one that leans so heavily on her energy to push through rough stretches. For fans, it hit hard too, not only in Indiana, but all the way back in Iowa. Clark wasn't just a star attraction, she was the heartbeat of the season, and losing her felt like the clearest sign yet that the Fever's playoff hopes might collapse just as quickly.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been impressed with these guys since even the offseason, really the ones that I was able to work out with in the offseason, is how hard they work. There's a work ethic and there's a work style, and to approach everything in the same way, to be so energetic, enthusiastic, and dedicated every day. And I felt that way in training camp too. There weren't any days where I had to bring that out of them. So I think it's the nature of the women that we've brought into this organization to continue to just bust their butts and play hard.
But while Clark watched from the bench, someone else had to take over. That someone was Kelsey Mitchell. She didn't just step up with a few extra points, she became the centerpiece. She turned into Indiana's most prolific scorer ever, surpassing even Tamika Catchings' single-season marks. To put it into perspective, Mitchell averaged over 20 points a night this season. 20 every game while also carrying ball handling duties, with defenses doubling her and scouting reports circling her name in bold. Mitchell delivered the offensive firepower that kept the Fever season alive when it easily could have flatlined.
Kind of all the other things like offensive rebounding that she can do.
Knocked away, Boston comes up with a steal. Here's Mitchell veering through the paint and lays it in.
She's so quick, and especially when she gets out in the open floor, you'll see her coming down. The quick left to right crossover just gets by. I thought she was sprinting. I didn't think she was lumbering.
It was a lumber sprint.
Up for the big girl.
Mitchell like a blur. That's a sprint.
Aaliyah Boston handled the other side of that responsibility. scoring a steady 15 a night while
Boston took care of the other side of the load, scoring a steady 15 a night and grabbing more than 8 boards over her last 10 games didn't just show effort, it showed consistency. In a season hammered by absences, she was Indiana's anchor. Her ability to body bigger forwards, control the glass, and keep possessions alive became the team's safety net. No matter how messy lineups got, Boston stabilized the middle. She even set a new team record for single-season rebounds. And you can't underestimate how much that steadiness prevented the Fever's defense from crumbling completely.
Only 8 teams have ever done that. 7 of them went on to win the title. As Boston gets free and lays it in.
She will be on my first team.
Boston in the paint, sneaks through 2 and lays it in.
So ask yourself, after everything, could this group realistically still dream about a playoff spot? Logic says the answer should have been no, yet that's not how the story unfolded. Instead of folding, they turned every obstacle into fuel. The injuries, the constant lineup changes, the frustrating whistles, all of it became motivation. Players originally thought to be role fillers stepped into nightly production, hardship signings hit double figures, bench players claimed expanded minutes with pride.
Fever done with the MVP, okay? Bow, bow, bow! Hell yeah. You already know what it is. Dubs in the chat, you already know what it is. You already know what it is. Let's go to the playoffs with some momentum, baby.
The turning point was obvious. The Fever stopped treating injuries like a death sentence and started using them as a rallying cry. That perspective shift completely changed the way they approached games and reshaped how fans saw them. By the time Minnesota came around, the absences weren't the headline anymore. What mattered was their toughness and how it set the stage for one of the most emotional wins of the season. Why did this victory over Minnesota feel like so much more than just another game? Because it was. Indiana wasn't simply closing out the schedule. They were going toe-to-toe with one of the league's elite, a team seen as the gold standard all year. This wasn't about pride alone, it was about survival in the playoff chase. And the Fever didn't blink. Already locked into the postseason, they still had the chance to climb. Win here, and depending on other results, the 6th seed was within reach. That might not sound like much to a casual fan, but in playoff terms, it's a major difference. A higher seed means better matchups, a chance to make noise, and validation that you belong at the top table.
Before the playoffs start Sunday tonight, it's regular season game 44 of 44 for the Fever as they host the WNBA's best team in 2025, the Minnesota Lynx.
What makes it even more impressive is where this team was just weeks earlier. They had lost 4 of their last 5. Momentum gone, fans uneasy, and national chatter circling back to whether Caitlyn Clark's absence had wrecked whatever progress they'd made. Teams in that spot often collapse. Instead, Indiana flipped the switch. They strung together 3 consecutive grinded-out wins. Each one was a testament to a roster redefining itself. The third of those was against Minnesota, and it mattered because it came against a team almost no one thought Indiana could handle at this stage.
It'll be Alana Smith jumping it up against Aaliyah Boston. The ball is tipped, and it's time to hoop at Indy.
A 10-0 run to start this game for Indiana, and Minnesota wants a timeout.
Powers up top, tees it up, 3, it's good! Energy!
Kicks it out, Powers, you bet! Back-to-back threes from Ariel Powers.
The Fever double up the Lynx in the first quarter. It's Indiana 28, Minnesota 14.
The way Indiana controlled that matchup is what made people stop questioning. From the very first tip, they looked prepared and confident. A 10-0 run in the opening quarter showed they weren't just surviving, they were dictating. By halftime, they held a double-digit lead and never once looked rattled about losing it. Minnesota tried to swing momentum, but ice-cold shooting combined with Indiana's suffocating defense kept them stuck. The Lynx made only 2 of their 23-point attempts, and each miss reinforced the sense that this was Indiana's night.
Indiana is 4 for 4 from 3-point range. Mitchell connects on a 3. Sims leaning jumper is good.
Kelsey driving left, puts it in off the backboard.
Will to it. for the first half. Indiana shoots 58% from the floor.
Part of the story was the unexpected sources of offense. Odyssey Sims, brought in on a hardship contract not long ago, scored 15 points. That's not just filling in minutes. That's coming off the bench and playing like someone determined to prove she still belongs at this level. Then came Aerial Powers. With the Lynx threatening to close the gap in the second half, she buried back-to-back threes that swung the momentum right back to Indiana. That wasn't just 6 points. It was the gut punch that reminded Minnesota this game wasn't theirs.
Mitchell, open three. It's good. You can. Kelsey Mitchell is a hooper.
Passes Dantas left corner three. Bullseye. Shot clock. Boston left block, banks it in.
Natasha Howard deserves just as much credit for this win as anyone. Her impact was felt every second she was on the floor. She rebounded hard, switched onto guards, and knocked down shots when possessions stalled. She filled all the gaps left by missing players and became the glue holding Indiana together. The Fever's bench, once criticized for being thin, turned into a strength. Instead of looking overwhelmed by Minnesota's depth, Indiana looked like the deeper team. That's where the numbers tell the story. The Fever now sit at 24-20. That's not just a record, it's history. It marks the first winning season for the franchise since 2015. 9 long years of false starts, missed chances, and rebuilds that never quite worked. Now it finally looks like everything is coming together. And that milestone isn't about celebrating average basketball. It's proof that a cultural reset has taken root. The players know it, the coaches know it, the fans who kept showing up in Indy know it. And yet Caitlyn Clark was still right there in the mix, even in street clothes. Cameras caught her signaling for a timeout, waving her hands like a coach on the sideline. She was calling coverages, talking to teammates, even laughing with refs. She might as well have been wearing a polo shirt on the bench.
Fever dub with the MVP, okay? Bow, bow, bow! Hell yeah. You already know what it is. Dubs in the chat, you already know what it is. You already know what it is. Let's go to the playoff with some momentum, baby.
So was this victory a fluke? Not even close. It was a controlled, confident performance by a team that isn't just trying to survive anymore. They're proving they belong in playoff conversations, even without their brightest star. And while the team effort stood out, the storyline everyone kept talking about afterward wasn't just the collective win. It was one specific moment of redemption. That moment belonged to Lexie Hull, and her battle with Kayla McBride became one of the game's biggest talking points. What's more satisfying than a team proving everyone wrong? Seeing one player deliver the kind of personal payback fans had been waiting for. For Hull, that chance arrived the instant she stepped on the court against Minnesota. Weeks earlier, she had been on the receiving end of McBride's elbow to the face. Blood on the floor, confusion everywhere, and the shocking twist. The refs actually penalized Hull with a technical foul instead of McBride. The whole sequence turned a bad night into an outrageous one. Fans weren't just upset, they felt disrespected on her behalf. It became another example of Indiana not getting the benefit of the doubt.
Here's Mitchell. I think that's a 2. Doesn't go. And now it's McBride getting Hull. Yeah, that one might be a problem. Indiana just taking shots to the face.
So naturally, when the Fever matched up with Minnesota again, every eye was locked on Hull. Fans wanted to see her response. Would she back down from guarding McBride? Would she let that low moment linger? Or would she flip the script and send a message that couldn't be ignored? The demand for justice hung over the arena before the opening tip. This wasn't just another game. For Hull, it was a character test.
Tonight for Indiana, but then Bolton gives it right back, and Howard cashes in.
To perform like this, but they have 5 different players almost at all times who can bring the ball up the floor. Usually 4 or 5 were adept at making shots from deep. I mean, you just saw a big there creating her own look as well from Natasha Howard. Career high in terms of her field goal percentage, and you see her here, the little spin to the middle. That's a tough shot.
The weight on Hull's shoulders had already increased thanks to the roster chaos. With Sophie Cunningham out, she became the team's only reliable wing option. That meant heavy minutes, extra shots, and almost no margin for mistakes. In the earlier Minnesota matchup, she logged nearly 40 minutes and dropped 23 points, her best performance in a Fever uniform. She no longer looked like a fill-in, she looked like a key piece of the team. The confidence she built carried straight into this rematch.
The Minnesota team is only accustomed to watching all season long. Now, one thing to know. Vegas currently is a 3, but if they win out, they will be the 6.
Then came the second quarter moment. Hull found herself face-to-face with McBride at the top of the key. One quick dribble left, a hesitation move, and McBride lunged. Her balance disappeared, her legs tangled, and in an instant, the cameras captured what everyone in the arena recognized. Kayla McBride had just been dropped, looking like her ankles gave way under the move. The crowd erupted, and the clip spread like wildfire across social media. Indiana fans called it karma, neutrals called it comedy gold. To Hull, it was just basketball. But to everyone watching, it was justice. The reaction was electric. Teammates leapt out of their seats. Fans leaned forward, realizing they were witnessing payback in real time. That crossover wasn't about revenge for an elbow. It was about flipping the script and restoring pride. Everyone who had been furious at that earlier technical foul now had a brand new highlight to point to. Hull wasn't the victim anymore. She had turned the tables and embarrassed the same opponent who had left her bloodied.
One of those players who is messy, and she's on your team, you love her, and if she's on the other team, she's just annoying. Right? You just gets in and try to rip the ball out of Smith's hands and just end the effort.
Even beyond that viral clip, Hull's defense was relentless. She shadowed Minnesota's backcourt, contested shots, tipped passes, and completely disrupted their rhythm. Box scores might not always capture defensive work, but anyone watching could see she was suffocating the Lynx guards. She turned their possessions into wasted trips, forcing the top seed into one of its weakest offensive outings of the year. That effort was every bit as important as the ankle-breaking crossover. What makes Hull's night resonate is that her story mirrors Indiana's. Written off, doubted, and hammered by calls that made no sense, yet finding a way to rise above. The Fever have been labeled underdogs all season, but like Hull, they don't back down. They answer when the pressure mounts. Her highlight against McBride captured that identity better than any stat sheet could. And think about the timing. Indiana hadn't posted a winning record since 2015. That's nearly a decade of frustration, false starts, and endless rebuilds. Yet here comes Lexie Hull seizing her moment and making a play that didn't just light up social media. It became a snapshot of everything this franchise is trying to rebuild: the grit, the belief, the ability to respond when the odds stack against you. Now, let's zoom out. This win wasn't just one game. It was a message to the league, to doubters, and maybe even to themselves. Indiana showed that even with Clark sidelined, with half the roster battered, they could still take down the WNBA's top team. That's the definition of growth. That's how a team matures into something dangerous. And when Clark returns next season, she won't just rejoin the roster. She'll step into a group that has already proven it can win without her. And that makes the Fever even scarier. Because here's the truth. Indiana didn't just survive. They evolved. Mitchell stepping into superstar status, Boston anchoring both ends like a seasoned vet, Hull delivering on the wing when no one expected her to, add in the bench production, hardship signings, and the leadership that's slowly developing. This is no longer the same team that started the year. This is a roster that believes. And belief is dangerous in the playoffs. Lexie Hull's crossover wasn't just a funny clip, it symbolized Indiana's fight through injuries, bad whistles, and constant doubt. That single play reflected the grit that carried them to their first winning record in nearly a decade. It told fans and critics alike, we're not just here to play, we're here to compete. Now the Fever enter the playoffs with momentum, buzzing fans, and the promise of Clark's return shaping the road ahead. This is where support counts most. Keep showing up, keep fueling that energy. Because what we just saw isn't luck. It feels like the first real step in Indiana's climb back to relevance. And let's be clear, this isn't just about one season. This is about a culture shift that could define the next era of Fever basketball. Every fan in Indiana knows how much they've craved this, every player in that locker room feels it, and every opponent is starting to realize it. The Fever are no longer the easy win on the schedule. They are the team you circle, because you know you're in for a battle. So as we roll into the playoffs, remember what this night meant. It was bigger than a win, bigger than a highlight. it was a turning point. And if Indiana keeps playing with the same fire, they won't just make the playoffs, they'll make noise in them. Let's show some love for Lexie down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next.